What's up, everyone? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic, and I have a collection update for you. Now, this does not include anything I got in Florida. This is stuff I got before I went to Florida that I had to catch up on, and some stuff I got when I got back. Figured I wanted to get through all the 2019 stuff, and there was still some more 2019 stuff in this. And the Florida stuff is mostly some older stuff. So this is more important because I want to have a nice comprehensive look at 2019's music in terms of what I got, so I can make a really nice year-end list, which I'm definitely going to get to soon. So let's get into it. Vader Stranded. This is a classic heavy metal with a little bit of thrash band from LA. This is actually a reissue of the EP that was Stranded, but they added 2 tracks, so this almost kind of qualifies as a full length now. This came out on Ripple Music this year, and I have to say one of the things I really liked about this were the vocals. Now, vocals in classic heavy metal style bands, or trad metal as people call them, sometimes they're kind of off-putting, sometimes they're too high register, and sometimes they're just not powerful enough to really carry the songs. We were spoiled with guys like Rob Halford and Bruce Dickinson, honestly. These guys take a more kind of gruff approach, and they're not super high register, but there's really cool harmonies in here. Like, I kind of just like the more gruff mid-register approach on this, and I can make the song sound better too. Now, it's not entirely heavy metal. It kind of reminds me of some kind of 90s alternative a little bit in spots, and there were parts in there that even kind of remind me of Skid Row, which is kind of an odd comparison, but I heard it was there. But all in all, this is a pretty fun release. I definitely want to check out more by this band. I've been kind of getting more into the classic heavy metal stuff because it's a fun nostalgia trip, if anything, and there's a lot of good bands in it. Check it out. Strigoi. I think that's how you pronounce that. Abandon All Faith. This is Gregor McIntosh's new side project. After Valenfire ran its course, this was his next thing, and mother of God, this is heavy. This is not too dissimilar from Valenfire, especially in terms of raw heft. I'd say the only thing I think is a little bit different, I think there's more kind of crust punk scattered in there and some blackened elements. The guitar tone on here is absolutely massive. Like, this has that fiercely Swedish buzzsaw tone. Really solid songs. Dark, oppressive, heavier than hell. This is just nasty, heavy shit. Definitely check it out. It's a good time. I mean, if you like Valenfire, you're probably going to love the shit out of this. Grave Pleasures. Doomsday, Roadburn. I have to admit, I knew nothing about this band when I picked it up. I just kind of picked it up on a whim. It was on the rack. It looked interesting. Fuck it, why not? Turns out they're a pretty cool punk band. Post-punk, maybe goth rock. Not very metal at all. This is a live performance at Roadburn, and I have to say they do a really good job. A lot of Misfits worship on here. Definitely some kind of Cure-ish moments, too. Again, not very metal, but a pretty solid listen, and I think I'm going to have to check out some of their studio releases because this was pretty good. Anyway, check it out if you're in that sort of thing. The Deathtrip. Demon Solar Totem. Again, I kind of picked up this one on a whim. It was on Profound Lore. I generally trust that label in terms of solid releases because they have tons of them. This is pretty raw black metal, but surprisingly, there's a fair amount of clean vocals on here. The vocals, even when they're clean, sound anguished and tortured, which definitely adds to the gritty, blackened atmosphere on this, which is pretty damn cool. Now, some of the vocal harmonies on here don't necessarily work too well. Kind of feels like they're doing a little bit of Mayhem worship with the sort of Attila-style vocals, which that guy is all over the place and really hard to copy. It's a solid, it's a decent release. I don't think it stands out much from a lot of other good black metal releases this year, but it was a good listen, and if you like black metal, I definitely recommend checking it out. It has some pretty solid songs on it, some minor gripes with production, but all in all, pretty decent release. Check it out if you like black metal. Bask III. This is a band that I heard a lot of buzz about. This came out on Season of Mist, which had a pretty fantastic year as well. And I had to check it out, and honestly, it's not very metal. It kind of lurks in that stoner, doom, almost kind of Baroness-like sludgy alternative realm. Really solid songwriting. Sometimes I think they go a little too off the beaten path in terms of like vocal harmonies on choruses. Instead of giving a solid, simple hook, it kind of gets a little too elaborate and you kind of lose it a bit. Solid musicianship on this. Just some really great writing. It's very psychedelic, very trippy sounding, and really just a strong knack for melody across the writing. Really like the last track too. It's a somber acoustic number played on a banjo. and just a really catchy song. Pretty solid stuff. I'm definitely going to check out more from these guys because I like what I heard. Admiral, Sir Cloudesly, Shovell. Very uncertain times. I've been following these guys for some time now, and I think they're kind of an interesting retro rock, somewhere between like early heavy metal and like the sort of proto stuff like Thin Lizzy, I guess. And they've always been at least pretty solid. This one, I think they really kind of dialed it in, unfortunately. Has all the token riffs, misses on the vocals on just about every moment. They're just kind of gruff, and it's almost like a Lemmy impersonation, which I love Lemmy. I don't think he was the greatest vocalist ever, but I think he was pretty serviceable at what he did. And it wasn't necessarily about him being a great vocalist, it was about him being a great frontman. You don't get that sort of energy on this, and some of the choruses are terribly repetitive and just kind of dull, honestly. Kind of disappointed by this because their earlier releases I thought definitely had more energy. It's, you know, kind of dumbed down riff rock, but it's fun. And this one was kind of missing the fun. It was actually kind of a chore to listen to, unfortunately. But, just my opinion. Check it out. If you're into classic rock and early heavy metal, might be your thing. Abigail Williams, Walk Beyond the Dark. This one came out on Blood Music, and I've been following Abigail Williams for years, actually, pretty much since the start of their career. I saw them open up for the Faceless and Veil of Maya fucking years ago, and I was like, dude, I really dig this. It kind of has this giant Emperor sound. Now, the sound's definitely changed, and it's hard to say they, considering it's one guy, Ken Sorceron. This is, honestly, I think, the best thing he's done. This is a very complete, epic-sounding black metal. Lots of beautiful melodies on this. There's even string sections, some cool chanted clean vocals. There's stuff in here that even kind of reminds me of like Tool and Gojira, but then you throw in like some classic black metal over there. There's tons of gorgeous dissonant riffs. Really, really solid work. And I love this album cover, which is definitely the same artist that did Bell Witch's Mirror Reaper. Very similar. But killer release. I'm actually kind of surprised with this because some of their other releases that came out recently, I really wasn't that into. They just kind of got dull. This, he dialed up everything for this one. Really solid release. Loved it. Check it out. Adversvm Dsyangelion. I think that's how you pronounce that made-up word. This is a funeral doom band from Germany. This is on Moorbound Records, and it is very raw and gritty funeral doom. Vocals on this are kind of interesting because they kind of ebb and flow back between a growl and almost like a growled whisper. Definitely adds to the atmosphere in this. Guitars are heavy. This is a very slow, methodical pace, of course, because it is funeral doom. Now, I think despite having very sludgy production on the guitars, vocals, bass, the drums sound a little bit clicky on this, which is just kind of a personal thing with me. I don't like when the bass drum sounds super clicky. Some really cool, clean guitar work on here, too, which I thought was interesting. Pretty solid release. I definitely heard better funeral doom, but there's a lot of really good funeral doom out there, and I think Esoteric's album that came out this year was pretty damn good, too, as far as funeral doom. This is pretty good. I recommend checking it out if you like funeral doom. Slow, ugly, depressing, you know, pretty much everything you want out of these guys. Check it out. Demonomancer, Poisoner of the New Black Age. This is a compilation of pretty much all this band's splits and demos. These guys are from El Salvador. This came out on Dunkelheit Productions. If you're looking for something very underproduced, very raw, this might be your thing. It definitely wasn't mine. I think it kind of sounds bad, honestly. The production is very raw. Like, it sounds like it was recorded on a tape deck in someone's garage in most of the tracks. It kind of varies because, again, you're getting multiple releases on here because it's a compilation, but holy shit, like sometimes the drums don't sound in time, the guitar tone is terrible, vocals are very much out in front and have a lot of different effects on them. It's just not very good, unfortunately. You know, cool cover, cool logo, but this is definitely not my style. Again, if you're into very, very raw, and I mean raw, blackened death metal, check these guys out. You might dig them. This wasn't my thing, but again, you guys might like them. Deathhammer, Chained to Hell. It's been a while since I picked up a Deathhammer release. I saw this one on the rack and was like, fuck it, why not check it out? This came out on Hell's Headbangers. Again, solid label. Blackened thrash metal from Norway. Musically, I really like it. It's fast as hell. It's constantly flying, except for maybe the instrumental Into the Burning, which I think is also one of the best tracks on here. Which there's a reason for that because, again, vocally, not really into this. Like, when he's just doing his standard scream, I think it's pretty good, but there's a lot of yelping, and it's just kind of goofy sounding. Now, I know, like, the whole campiness is part of the attraction to this. You know, at least for me, I love campy, over-the-top stuff, but when it's labored to a point where it gets annoying, it just really loses me. But again, musically, this is really good. Like I said, if you love black and thrash metal, and you like the music insanely fast and very, raw sounding, but still well produced, pretty solid release. Definitely check them out. A lot of fun. Explosicum, Living Zeal. Now, this is actually a reissue that came out on Punishment 18. This album originally came out in 2017. This is a thrash metal band from China, which honestly, don't hear a lot of metal bands coming out of China, so I had to really check this out. Plus it had replica artwork, which, yeah, I'm a sucker for. This is very energetic, very fast. Vocals are comical, almost. Lots of over-the-top shrieking, like the guy's voice is cracking and popping. It's almost like they had Edward Furlong when he was in Terminator 2 doing the vocals. Like, It's a bit much. Musically, it's just very fast, very nasty thrash metal. Not too bad musically. I mean, these guys, I assume, are pretty young, judging by the photos I saw of them. If you can get past the vocals, the music's pretty solid. It's just, once again, that was so out front, and it really just took me out of it, like, almost right away. I was kind of even giggling to myself in parts of this. But definitely check them out. It's still worth a listen. It might be your thing. It's just not mine. Lord Mantis, Universal Death Church. This came out on Profound Lore, and I was excited to hear there was another Lord Mantis coming out. This is yet another band that features Ken Sorceron from Abigail Williams and a litany of other projects. Really solid blackened sludge. It's just a killer album. I really enjoyed this. I think they kind of dialed down the grittiness, at least from Death Mask, which I thought was a pretty solid album too. Now this one brings in, I'd say, a lot more melody. Very atmospheric. The vocals are very shrill, very distorted. Almost sounds like, someone screaming through a broken bullhorn. Really, really good release. Really dug this. I'm kind of torn between this and Abigail Williams in terms of ones that could possibly make it on my year-end list from this batch. But I really dig this, and I need to get some more Lord Mantis. I'm missing some of the earlier stuff. So yeah, definitely check this out if you like black and sludge metal, or just harsh, nasty music that's surprisingly melodic. Check it out. Noctem, The Black Consecration. I've been a fan of Noctem for a number of years. I really like their black metal / kind of black and death approach. It's very technical, and most of the time their production is pretty polished. This one, I think it's a little bit grittier. I think the drums sound good, except I think the toms are exceptionally loud. Whenever that guy goes into a turnover, it just really kind of overpowers the song. But solid black metal from Spain. These guys been around for a number of years. Enjoyed this. Again, doesn't really stand out that much from the pack, but there are a lot of good melodies on here, and very strong songwriting. Some thrasher elements that I really like in black metal. But yeah, definitely check it out. If you like black metal, you'll probably like this. Profanatica, Altar of the Virgin Whore. I may not have liked the most recent release they put out, but I picked this one up on a whim. It was on Hell's Headbangers, and I actually like this EP. Now, despite this having more than 6 tracks on it, it counts as an EP because the songs are very short. Now, while this one is similar in terms of their formula from the most recent release, I think it's better than the most recent release. I like the more raw production on this one. Not that the other album didn't have raw production, it just fits better on this one. It feels more full. And while the songs pretty much stick to their guns, they still run that similar blast beat on virtually every song. I think there's more dynamic shifts in the songs, and within shorter songs too. I think maybe in smaller doses this just works for me better. But yeah, I really dug this one. Definitely check it out. Good shit. If you like black and death metal that sounds like incantation, yeah, you'll probably like it. Red Death, Sickness Divine. I have heard a lot of buzz about this band, and this is my first exposure to them. Now, this is a DC-based crossover thrash band that features the drummer from Genocide Pact. This came out on Century Media. This is their big label debut, and it's a pretty solid release. Not too dissimilar from bands like Enforced and Power Trip. I think this one favors groove a little bit more, and I have to say the frontman sounds a lot like Rob Flynn from Machine Head, which kind of have a love-hate relationship with that here lately, but this is really good stuff. Awesome solo trade-offs on here. The drum work's fantastic. He does fantastic drum work in Genocide Pact, too. I really like this emergence of a new crossover thrash scene here lately. I think Power Trip really kind of galvanized that, and I hopefully hear more bands like this, because this is something that really harks back to when I got into metal. It was very, very much thrash metal that really got me going. But yeah, pretty solid release. Definitely recommend checking it out, especially for like Power Trip and Enforce and stuff like that. Good stuff. Satyricon, Rebel Extravaganza. This is the 2019 reissue of this album. So yeah, 20-year anniversary of this one. It's on Moonfog, and I think distributed through Napalm. I really like this album. I know this album is kind of divisive because this is where a lot of people feel the music started to turn, and granted they threw in more groovy elements and definitely some industrial elements on here. I still think it's a really solid release. Musically, I think it's fine. I think the opening track is fantastic, and for a 10-minute song, it really held my interest throughout. This was one of the few I was missing out of Satyricon's discography. I think I'm just missing the first one, which I should just get. I gotta find that someplace. But I like this. It's a good reissue. Sounds really good, and yeah, I think this is kind of an underrated album. I think it just gets a lot of shit just because of the change in sound. But yeah, check it out. It's a lot of fun. Waxen, Blasphemer in Celestial Courts. Kind of picked this one up on a whim just because it was on Moorbound, and I like a lot of stuff that comes out on Moorbound Records. And this was definitely billed as black metal. It is a one-man black metal project. The main person here, I forget his name, is from Wyoming, so American black metal too. And as I listen to it, it's kind of black metal. It's more black and thrash, but it's almost kind of like that virtuoso riff rock where, you know, they just want to play solos over it. Parts of that sort of style are in here too. Very obvious drum machine on here. It doesn't even sound remotely real, which kind of drove me nuts a bit. But songs are pretty well constructed, but when it comes down to the overall style of it, a lot of these songs feel like they were just designed to write solos over. Again, not bad, just not what I was expecting. I mean, the leads are really good on here. There's a lot of really good melody. Vocals sound a little too staticky. Actually, they sound like they were just yelling into a bullhorn. It's, you know, very crackly. Kind of gets on my nerves because it's the only vocal effect that's really on here. It's the one that pretty much permeates the entire release. But yeah, check it out. It's a pretty fun release, especially if you want to hear ripping guitar leads. And if you want to hear like a blackened, I don't know, maybe Steve Vai album, except not as good as Steve Vai. Not that this guy isn't good. Steve Vai is pretty amazing. Yeah, check it out. It's an interesting release. Witching Hour and Silent Grief Shadows the Passing Moon. This is kind of an interesting mix of stuff. It's very much trad metal and also bits of black metal and definitely thrash metal on here. Came out on Hell's Headbangers last year. I actually got a sticker for them when I got that Hell's Headbangers grab bag. And saw this on the rack, figured might as well check it out. I got a sticker for them. Maybe they're really good. It's kind of half true. Vocals, again, kind of took me out of this because they're neither leaning towards black metal or trad metal. They're just kind of yelled, really. Not very tuneful. There's not a lot of big hooks in terms of vocal hooks in here, but there's some really good guitar work on here. Production is pretty solid. It's very raw, very like organic sounding. I think the snare gets lost in the mix a bit, but overall, it's a pretty interesting listen. I'd recommend checking it out if you're a fan of thrash metal, black metal, or trad metal. More so trad metal and thrash metal, though, to be honest. But yeah, it's an interesting listen, and definitely check it out and form your own opinion on that. Alright, that pretty much covers everything I wanted to get covered before I started working on the year-end list. Now I can really get cracking on that, which I have a rough draft that's just kind of organizing it. So stay tuned for that because those are going to come up, and all the Thralls are going to put up a year-end list. They might not be as long as my list, but there'll be some choice cuts in there from stuff we've reviewed and just stuff we've jammed. So, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do shit like this all the time. Catch you guys later.